welcome to episode 31 of the Fashion Feed podcast. My name's Elizabeth and I'm a fashion brand consultant. My background is in fashion buying and I've worked in the industry for about 12 years now and in consulting for 2. I'm at Elizabeth Styles UK on Instagram, where I share lots of information on building and running a fashion brand online. Today's guests are Eva and Bory of Kool and Konscious, which is an ethical online fashion marketplace. Eva and Bory are the co-founders and I first met them at the Drapers Sustainable Fashion Conference. Kool and Konscious aims to eliminate the environmental and moral footprint of the fashion industry by providing access to the world's largest selection of sustainable and ethically sourced products gathered in a well-curated, operationally excellent and technologically advanced marketplace. In this episode, we discuss how Eva and Bory met to collaborate on this online marketplace, what circular fashion means to them and how they use technology to measure that, leading with a purpose when building a social impact company, what those first days look like when launching a brand new tech company, and why you should make the most of technology that's already available to you. As we recorded this over Zoom and in different countries, there are a couple of tiny little tech glitchy bits, but overall, I hope you'll enjoy.
I go first? Great. So I am Bory, one of the co-founders of Kool and Konscious, which probably you'll find out is our planet's coolest, most conscious platform for sustainable fashion. The idea kind of conceptualized when I was in Hong Kong. So this is, I guess, kind of a big part of my profile. I've grown up there and kind of the concept for the power of collectivism really stuck with me. And I thought collecting the most sustainable and ethical brands in one marketplace could really be very impactful. So that's in short.
And how about you, Eva?
Hey, I'm Eva. I'm the other co-founder out of 3 of Kool and Konscious. I've been working in digital products or e-commerce for I think the last 15 years, and the previous kind of big project that I was involved with was a pretty big fashion marketplace. Probably the biggest in Central and Eastern Europe. By the time I left it was running 70 million euro in turnover in 2015, I think, when I left.
That's quite impressive.
Yeah, it was a pretty big one. It sold to Naspers in 2012. But it was very interesting experience for me to go through that process of shipping and selling so many items to customers. And at some point, I kind of started feeling this discrepancy between what I'm doing as a profession of pushing items to people to buy more and more and more, and me as a person, as a human being, where I was just feeling completely stuck in all the clutter around me and completely unhappy. And I thought, this cannot be the right way to go forward, right? And so at some point I decided that we've probably grown apart with my company. And I left it in 2015, and I started taking interest in circularity or shared economy, different types of solutions. And by accident last Christmas I met Bory and her and our other co-founder at that time, Ufuk, and we kind of hit it off, and this is how we started KK.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit more about how you guys met, because it was a little bit of a random coincidence, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think at the time we were just making the transition. So as I mentioned, we kind of launched the company in Hong Kong, and it actually had a different name. It was called Couture Capsule, and we ran a pop-up in Hong Kong just to test the concept and see if how people perceive sustainable fashion. Would that be something interesting? And we just hired a space for 1 month, gathered 8 brands from around the world, literally from Brazil, Cambodia, from Hong Kong, from where else? From Indonesia, and people just loved it. They were asking, so what after this pop-up? Are you going to have an online store? Are you going to have another store? So we thought, okay, let's take this a little bit bigger and beyond the physical boundaries. So we started building an online marketplace. And I came back to Bulgaria to see my family. And during this time, a friend of mine was just telling me, oh, I met this woman, you should reach out to her. And I'm like, dude, she's been, the CEO of one of the biggest fashion marketplaces. I really doubt she would be keen to join our baby project. So I reached out. I remember I wrote her like 5-page email.
I have to say that I didn't really read it.
Now I can guarantee she didn't read it, and she came up with great stuff. Let's meet on Monday.
And what did you think when you received that email, Eva?
No, I actually, because Bory actually spoke about the technology she worked on before that, while at her university, which was a perfect fit on-demand technology. And it was quite curious for me to understand. As I said, I didn't read the email because I just cannot read long emails. And it's a dynamic that me and Bory have, because we can share with you a picture that represents our relationship in full. But yeah, and I just thought I just was curious about the idea. To be honest, it actually evolved while working together. It was initially thought to be slightly different, and then it kind of evolved into something that is now. That's a product that we launched now. And my initial thought was maybe that I can probably just not join the team, but just support them, because I have another company and other projects that take a lot of my time. But at some point, I realized that maybe I am actually keen to start something new. I really love building things from scratch. It's part of me I guess. So yeah, Bory started coming, and we brought together a team to kind of start working on the concept, and we started spending time together, and we kind of grew into that project together. And I'm really excited that with the work that we've done so far. I think we are really quick in executing, and we've done so much with so little, because initially we decided that if we're building a marketplace, as you know, it's from a business standpoint, it is a very cash consuming business, right? So you cannot start with no money at all to build a marketplace. It's just impossible. And so our initial plan was to raise some capital to build the product, and then raise another chunk of cash to actually launch it on the market. But what ended up happening is that we actually bootstrapped through the product building. We built it ourselves, and once we were ready with the product, we raised cash relatively quickly, and we're very grateful to our investors for just trusting in us. And so now we have this really cool and beautiful products, and we're very fortunate because brands from around the world, really, we try to focus on Europe and the UK just because of the fulfillment. So just the customers to be able to receive their products on time, with a reasonable time frame, with a reasonable cost. But even so, we have brands coming from Hong Kong, we have US brands, we have Indonesian ones. So we really spread across the world, and very, very fortunate because the brands are really keen on working with us. But I think one of the best things that came out of this, the fact that we are a very small and agile team, is that we were able to very quickly reshape what we initially thought of doing, and we are still reshaping it very quickly, almost on a daily basis. And so, for example, now as we had this conversation before this before the actual interview starts, now with this crisis that we find ourselves in, we thought that it might be a good idea to focus on things that we were working on beforehand and never had the time to do. And so now we are very, very happy to have launched something that we call Sustainability Impact Score. And what it does, it's an algorithm that calculates the water and CO2 savings for all sustainably produced products on the marketplace. So now if you go to Konscious and you open any product, you will see how much water has been saved through producing this product sustainably and how much CO2 emissions have been saved. And also it shows something that we call a circularity factor. And what it means is, can this product be managed in its afterlife? So once you stop using it, can you reuse it? Can you compost it? Can you recycle or upcycle it? Or does it go to a landfill? And if it goes to a landfill, what happens? Is it a polyester product? Which we actually don't have polyester products on our marketplace, but for example, so, and our thinking with this is that we want to empower customers to actually understand what buying any kind of item means. And so once they're informed, it's our feeling that they gradually will understand and they will gradually start taking actions. So, and Bory likes to say, when you believe, when you know, you start to care. And I really agree with her that that's a fact. And so instead of pushing for sales or for customers to buy anything now, what we want to do is push for just empowerment and education and help them have a better understanding of the situation, and we are pretty certain that it's this little rock that will start rolling, and it will make a big impact and a big change.
Yeah, definitely. I think when obviously we met at the Drapers Sustainable Business Awards as well, and somebody was saying that as well, that if you're working with a team who don't care and you're trying to make other people care, like take them and show them, because exactly like you said, once you see it, you can't not care. So trying to get other people in your team to actually see what you're talking about rather than you just saying it. And sometimes it's not as, I don't know, powerful as actually seeing it for yourself. So what did those first few weeks look like? What did you prioritize when you were setting up the business? And what did you know, what were certain things that were non-negotiable?
Actually, touching on the team, what you just said about kind of leading with a purpose, it's so powerful when you're trying to build an impact company. And one of the factors that really, I think, also impressed our investors was the fact that we had our team work for free for almost a year. So everyone believed in the concept so much that they would join until we were able to fundraise. And I guess we had a switch of priorities. So at the beginning, our priority was, let's fundraise as quick as possible so that we can start building the product and kind of take our team's time when we have the funding. But as it turned out, we got like fundraising, I guess, for any industry is really challenging. And it was for us as well. So we got kind of, investors were really keen, but all of them were like, we need to see the product and we need to see it working, and then no problem, we'll commit. So here the priority changed. So we asked our team, let's try to bootstrap. Everyone put in whatever you can and learn whatever you can. So we literally some of us learned how to code, we learned how to do graphic design, we learned how to build up a store, learned how to sync brands with their store. So I guess the priority really was get a product ready really fast so that we can fundraise. We just did like something that we couldn't compromise was speed, because now everyone was, had this incentive to kind of get things done very quickly so that we can move on to the next stage and become like a proper established company. So it was just a super fun journey, very, very intense and very insecure, kind of are we going to pull it off or no? It was,
I think also it is still our main priority. So speed is really important for us to get things done as quickly as possible. And what we do is just we prioritize in very short runs. So we put very tangible goals that we know we can do within a short time frame. Now, that said, we do have a very grand vision of where we want this marketplace to go. going forward. But it is important to do the little steps as well. So the way we operate on a daily basis is to do like small sprints and small runs. Normally we would have a week, or most tops 2 weeks to start and finish a project. And this is how, you know, it could be a project within a larger thing, right? But we want to give our team, because it's a small team, and everybody's doing so many things. And sometimes it's very easy to have this feeling of that you haven't completed anything, right? Like you work for 12 hours and you go home and you're like, not sure what I did today. Yeah, exactly. And so we're very conscious in managing this situation, just because we want to keep the team rolling, and the burnout, problem is it's a real issue within a company at that stage. And so this is why what we're doing is just do small tangible things that, you know, at the end of the week, all right, I've completed this one and I have a feeling of satisfaction. And I think it works out pretty well. But as Bory said, our speed is number one priority for us to this day.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really good lesson for people listening, because I speak to a lot of clients who they set themselves impossible tasks, and then like having that motivation and drive when you're starting out and you're not necessarily seeing sales or like results, should we say, at the beginning, you need to create them for yourself. So like breaking massive tasks down into little tasks is something that people should really take away, I think, and think about, because I don't know, so I speak to somebody and they'll go, oh, I need to launch my website next week, and I'm like, there's probably about 100 jobs within that one thing.
They should call Bory, she's very good at that.
I've grown to be very good at that. But yeah, and I think speed, like aside from breaking down goals to smaller goals, I think especially on the product end, we've also I really try to stress on this principle of automation. Even if we can do this fast, can we automate it? So for example, when brands want to reach out, usually they would write us an email, hey, can we join? And then we would reply, yes. Can you send us an inventory list? And then we'll look through it, and so on and so forth. So we thought, let's make a page where if anyone wants to join, here are the 3 steps which they follow. They fill out this form, then they kind of upload their image there and more. So now I think we're super proud for this very short time to have really automated and streamlined a lot of the processes, including like onboarding the actual brand. So getting their products, listing them on our marketplace, writing the descriptions and more. Now it's not perfect, as in it's not 100% automated, but we're definitely kind of spending time on automating things so that in future they do not take time for us, which I'm guessing is a practice for a lot of companies. But usually for startups, if you don't know how to do something, which is usually when you don't have a vast amount of capital to just outsource the work and tell someone, you know, just automate this, and then you're like ready to pay 150,000 for this.
Yeah.
Like for us, it's actually very intimidating to be like, oh, okay, how do we actually automate this? So we have to, I mean, it's very intimidating, but it's something that we've grown very used to, kind of finding the resources and figuring out ways of how to streamline our processes.
Yeah. And we are also big fans of ready-made technology. I think also if there are any new starting brands listening, in my experience, many companies, or first-time companies especially, they start to do things and build technology by themselves.
Yeah.
And somehow they see value in proprietary software. And for some, it does make sense. Like if it is specific technology that is, you know, the innovation is in the technology itself, for sure, go ahead and do it. But if you're launching an e-commerce website, there are probably tens, if not hundreds of solutions that are out there, and you can just go and have an e-commerce platform launched literally in a week. And so what is important is to keep a sense of what's important. So the technology exists. You don't have to spend a year to build it. It's already there, so you can go and grab it. And so for us, it is also very important to use, and it allows us to also have this speed and automation where we go. And our strength, I believe, is in just matching existing technology and puzzling it in a way that allows us to have the speed and also gives us an advantage of automating so many processes on our end. If we were to build, let's say, an in-house ERP system or an in-house CRM system, then that's a project in itself. That's something that takes years. And also, you don't know when you're starting a business what exactly you need. So before you know what exactly you need, then just go and have something that, because for example, if you look at Shopify or Magento or all of these solutions that are out there, you know, they work with hundreds of thousands of customers and they know all the cases, right? Yeah. So they do know what you need. So you may you may just want to save time and go ahead and use it. And what I also find that people say, oh, this doesn't match my processes. Well, the reality is that probably your processes are not the right ones. Because if you have a benchmark of 100,000 companies that are doing it in a certain way and the process is built in that way, that's probably the way to do it. And they probably thought about it beforehand, that they probably had your opinion before starting and then something changed, right? So our approach is not to reinvent the wheel that's been invented. We just want to, you know, but on the other hand, we focus on building technology that matters for us. So for example, the sustainability score, the algorithm, that's something that is a proprietary software and it's built in-house. And that's a big differentiator for us. And I just want to kind of ping Bory to talk about our long-term vision and the ecosystem that we are trying to build, because this is going to be a major project, hopefully for next year for us. And we really feel kind of that's something that is going to make a difference for our brands and for sustainable brands generally.
Yeah, sure. I would really love to touch on this.
I don't know. Is she here? Yeah.
I'm guessing, to be honest, a key principle whenever we take up a new task or kind of from time to time, we just try to take a step back and reflect, is what we're doing truly bringing value to the world, to Kool and Konscious, and to us as people. And oftentimes when we reflect on kind of on our business kind of marketplace, which pushes sales, we also kind of just stopped for a second to reflect on the fact that right now we have in our pipeline around 200 brands. So those are 200 brands which produce, and then we're connected to thousands of customers around the world. So we're actually in the perfect spot, like we're the middle between how people produce and what people buy. So we thought, you know what, actually what would bring true impact is if we help our brands to produce even more sustainably and more transparently with more circularity in mind. So this is when we thought about building the so-called ecosystem, where we research for the best players in the world when it comes to everything sourcing. So eco-friendly textiles, toxic-free dyes, plastic-free packaging, dissolvable threads, and more, so that our brands can, I mean, as we mentioned, a lot of the brands that we work with are really tiny. So, I mean, they cannot have the resources to design and produce and research and be excellent in marketing and IT operations and more. So we just wanted to make it easy for them to just tap into our pool of exceptional value chain players, sourcing players, and more importantly, to be able to source at scale. So a lot of those brands actually, even if they find a really good and transparent, say, textile provider, then it might happen that they cannot even order from them because the minimum quantity is beyond what they would sell, for example, for 5 years.
Yeah.
I can give a great example with Tipa, who make truly amazing packaging made from vegetables. The Reformation are using them. Stella McCartney are using them, but the minimum order is 25,000 units from one single size. And I mean, you can imagine how much a small brand sells on a month. Like, and the problem is that those dissolve within a year. So if you don't, I mean, you cannot even use them for 5 years.
Yeah.
So what we want to do is, on the one hand, attract those kind of truly innovative sourcing companies, but on the second hand, convince them to see the demand from our brands as an aggregated demand. So imagine the 200 brands which we have. If all of them kind of place an order, maybe they would come up to a total order of 25,000. So we ask them to just give a discount, kind of volume discount to Kool and Konscious as a general, and then for our brands to single-handedly order what they need whenever they need it. So this would be very powerful for our brands. This would be very empowering for our brands on the sourcing end, but also it would drive the prices of sustainable fashion down, which is going to be a huge factor towards making sustainable fashion really more accessible and more affordable and more competitive with mass fashion at the end of the day.
And also because our topic for today was going to be circularity.
I know, I was saying earlier, I've got so many questions about your platform that we'll get round.
No, but I think this is it's a cool starting point for circularity, to talk about circularity, because the way that fashion can become circular, it actually needs to start from the design of things, right?
Yeah.
You cannot start with the supply chain, because materials are there. Great new technologies are there for dyeing, for sewing. There are dissolvable threads where you can put them under certain temperature and they dissolve, and so the piece is in pieces. But for example, we were talking to a big fund, financial fund, who is investing in recycling technologies, and what they said is that they're not at all interested in fashion because the effort for recycling fashion products is so huge, and what you get at the end is something that nobody wants to buy. So the result of products being recycled is something that is so cheap that there's just no market for it. You don't want to sell it and nobody wants to buy it. So for example, with cotton is something that you cannot even recycle. You can only downcycle it. So you have something that is of good quality now, let's say a t-shirt, and then the next thing it can become is not another t-shirt. It can become a mop. And then from a mop, it can become, let's say, something that you stuff in the door of a car, but it doesn't get the same quality that it had before. So this is probably one of the main forces behind us trying to build this ecosystem, because we want to help the brands actually start from the design and then build their supply chain in a way that they can produce a product that you can throw on the ground and then it dissolves, right? It's not going to be, if we want to completely circle products, they need to be plastic or, of some material that actually circles. In
general, kind of pure materials, like for example 100% polyester are good for recycling, and even then there are different types of polyesters which need to be recycled differently. I guess the easiest example would actually be with the food industry. You know how a lot of foods are in plastic packages, and you would think that the package from your tomato could be recycled together with the package from your potatoes. But
I was going to say, even the lid and the base sometimes are two different plastics.
Like one is a little bit softer, like you can squish it more easily, and the other one, if you squeeze it, it breaks. So those need to be recycled separately. I mean, they cannot be recycled together. So there's so much preconditions for something to be recyclable, and for fashion is an extreme challenge, because on the one hand you have, is it a pure textile or is it a mixed textile? Then does it have details or no, because removing the details is such a manual and costly work that a lot of the items with details, such as, for example, jeans or vests, they automatically go out of the recycling pile just because the effort for them is too huge.
To
And
remove
then
the zipper or to remove the button, so it just costs you more than what you will get as a result of the recycling.
Yeah, but there are great technologies when it comes to, for example, that facilitate recycling a little bit. As Eva mentioned, Resortex, for example, is a type of thread that if you put the item under high temperature, then it automatically dissolves. So you can easily remove kind of the zipper and the buttons and more. But this doesn't take away for kind of the textile problem and what color is it and what are the chemicals used in it. So this is why it's super important to really, there are just so many preconditions, kind of prerequisites that you need to tick off for something to be recyclable, as in can you remove the details easily? Are they recyclable? Is the textile pure? Is it from a color which can mix with the other textiles from the same material and more? So this is why it's absolutely crucial to kind of educate even brands on the importance of what do you source and how do you put it together? As in, do you really need a zip, or can you use something else? Can you design it kind of with as minimum amount of details as possible? And of course, here is the trade-off of, well, this is, the creativeness within my design. I mean, it does require a zipper. So here is the challenge of, can we keep up the diversity in design without compromising on, what we can use that is circular? So it is a big challenge. And I think educating brands on the opportunities and getting creative with them is a huge part of.
Yeah, I think sorry, Bory, to interrupt. I think it's very interesting to see how some brands have already launched kind of a circular solution. So, for example, Mud Jeans in the Netherlands, they are trying to build a completely full circle. So you can buy jeans from them and then return it to them, and then they recycle it and bring it back into a new pair of jeans. So it's a completely closed production, but they only do that with their own items, right? So it's slightly easier to keep it within one brand producing one single type of product. In the moment that you decide to add diversity in the types of products, then it becomes a little bit harder, because then you require different processes. And then do you have the volumes to actually sustain each of these different types of recycling processes? And we generally feel that probably recycling is not the right solution. It's more of, we need to focus more on materials and products that don't require recycling, that they can just be thrown out and they will dissolve with the ground, in the ground, right? So this is at least our effort, and this is why we're building this ecosystem, because we just want to support the brands realizing this and making this transition. Otherwise, we are just back to square one, where we are pushing something that is produced better in less harmful way, but still it's something that you need to throw out, and what do you do with it after that? We just don't know.
Yeah. And have you started seeing certain areas of sustainable products or ethical products or circular products selling better on your platforms? Like, what does your data tell you that people are buying at the moment?
Sweatpants.
Yeah, definitely at the moment. Yeah, comfy things.
Comfy things, yes, t-shirts and sweatpants and leggings and all this kind of thing.
I
would say that sustainability for our customer is more like a given, as opposed to a specific factor for why they would buy one thing over another thing. So I think they're super happy just coming on the platform and knowing that whatever they buy would be more sustainable than the status quo by at least 75%. So I guess we could tell you trends on what do they buy in terms of products, but not on kind of if the sustainability factor of one piece, kind of like a one design or a brand being the winning factor for someone to buy this piece.
Yeah. And so what would your advice be for somebody wanting to start up a sustainable or ethical fashion business based on what you've learned so far and all the brands that you work with?
I would say a couple of things. So first, and something that I already said, is use technology that exists. So get that out of the picture. My feeling is with most of the creative people, which is many people who start sustainable brands and generally fashion brands are more on the creative side. So free yourself from the burden of technology by just using something that already exists. There are really cool things out there that are easy to use and allow you to be creative also in that department, instead of, you know, taking time to build something that's just going to waste your time and you're not going to receive the effect that you're looking for. And the other thing is, you need to keep in mind that customers on the other end, you need to put yourselves in the shoes of customers. We have so many brands at the moment who are sustainable and ethically produced, artisanal, handmade, and beautiful. But if you are a customer, there is a certain price, quality thing that you need to meet, right? You cannot expect something to buy a crafty product that costs €1,000, let's say, and it just doesn't look good. And you may have one customer who buys it, but just going forward, like scaling this business, this is not going to be the best fit for you, right? So you need to think of the price always and the quality of the products always. And just because you are producing sustainable, it doesn't give you the right to actually try to abuse customers with selling something that is not of good quality and that is of an extremely high price. I think this is also part of the reason why we are relatively slow in onboarding brands, is because it is important for us to tackle these issues and work with brands who understand that the customer is looking for a value, right? They are happy to pay a premium, maybe 30% more or 40% more for even for a t-shirt, but they need to see the value in it. They need to see that they will wear this piece and they would love it and they will enjoy it, and that's something that is going to empower them going forward. That's important if the business wants to scale and become something that is actually a business, because otherwise it's not really a business, right? It is something, it's a
hobby.
And not necessarily bad, but it's not, it doesn't hold the potential to grow, to be, you know, a sustainable business, and something that serves the customer with a high quality every time. Because we tend to say, all of these fast fashion brands, or even, you know, just a normal fashion brand out there, they're such a bad guys because they're producing with such high volumes, etc. But that's not their exactly the problem. The problem is of how we produce, with the materials that we use, and that we don't really think of the cycle and how to close it. And it's partially because we as consumers have become really used to this convenience of everything being really next door. And I think what is important for sustainable brands to realize is that they can do better products and price them higher, but they need to meet the convenience and the quality. This is the competing part. This is where they come to compete with the brands that are on every corner. This is where they compete with Zara. They need to meet the convenience, the ease of use, and just, I need to be able to go and find them and have them easily at my doorstep. It is important to think about that at the price and at the quality that I really love, because it's not, we don't want to punish customers because they are buying sustainable fashion, and give them some things that are not beautiful and not of high quality. We just want to, in order for this change to happen in the consumer's mind, it needs to be something that is empowering for them, like a product that you love to wear. And yesterday we had this chat with Bory about a customer of ours who had he bought a t-shirt. It's a friend of mine. He's in Switzerland, and he bought a t-shirt from our marketplace. It costs like 60 euro, and he said, "Oh, that's too pricey for a t-shirt. I mean, I've never." Oh, he's a guy, right? But
Yeah.
I've never bought a t-shirt that costs 60 euro. And then he received it, and he's like, it actually really feels different, and I really love to wear it every time. And we've had this experience with so many other people, especially guys who are, you know, yeah, who really love these products, and they kind of realize the value because they see this is a really high quality product, and when they love to wear it, and every time they wear it, somebody gives them a compliment and they wear it with a, you know, they just feel great wearing.
It really feels different. Yeah. I would say with my boyfriend, the case was exactly the same. He got the same t-shirt, and all of a sudden I noticed he just was no longer wearing his other t-shirts. And then three of his friends were like, it was a simple white t-shirt, and all of his friends was like, what is this t-shirt? I mean, it looks different. You can, and I guess just the quality really, you can see it. This is why we actually we put such a big importance on kind of experiencing sustainable fashion, because it really comes with a more special quality and an incredible feel. And kind of for myself, I conceptualize what Eva just spoke about in kind of three key principles for brands, which stem from kind of one simple idea that fashion could be a super powerful tool, either a very positive one or a very negative one. The very negative being that, for example, a simple t-shirt that costs €5 somewhere takes 2,700 liters, and then we wear it 5 times, and then we no longer wear it because it's already a little bit yellowish, and it has, like, the textile has ruined a little bit. And it could be very powerful because at the same time you can have the same design, you can have better quality, and it could be great for the world. I mean, it can use way less resources, but also very importantly, it can eliminate the pollution from fashion. And even on a single unit basis, the impact could really be huge. I mean, we're talking about 0.5 kilogram of pesticides, 40% of the colorants used for this t-shirt being carcinogenic, so very negative for our skin as well. So personal health is also affected. And then just thinking about this on a kind of on a conceptual level, I would say on the first hand, like, think about the functionality of fashion. When you make something, is it really going to meet the functional needs of the customer, which is a standard kind of fashion principle. Then on the second place, think about the emotional value that this piece is bringing. As we know, a lot of people use fashion as a tool for self-expression, for kind of showing their inner colors from the outside. I personally am not this type of a fashion person, but I think a large percent of people consuming fashion do use fashion as a tool for self-expression. So do meet this need as well. And on the third place, think about the impact that this piece could have for our world. So design with circularity in mind, research what are available textiles out there. Do you really need to, as in, use this fabric as opposed to this fabric? How are you going to make this piece really last longer and justify the price, and really for the customer to feel proud and different every time they wear it? So it's not easy, but I think it's absolutely manageable given the insane amount of technologies and textiles that we have available these days.
Absolutely. And there are really enough in not so expensive alternatives to resource intensive materials. So for example, alternatives of cotton, like tencel or bamboo or hemp. You can do a lot with those materials. They feel actually great, if not even better than cotton. Yeah. And so the options are out there, and then they're becoming more and more accessible to brands. So absolutely, I agree with Bory on this one. We just need to focus on, just think about what this product life is going to look like.
Yeah. I think that's amazing. Yeah, I feel very inspired to go and have a look on your website and see all the amazing things that you're doing. And so, if obviously, if people want to go shopping, it's Kool and Conscious with the K's rather than the
Yeah.
C's replaced. But what if somebody is a brand and they would like to be hosted on your website? How would they go about doing that? They would fill in the form that you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, we do have in the footer of our website, we do have a become a KK brand link. So there they could follow a few easy steps. And I think the hardest part of being onboarded is the due diligence on our end. So we will just put in, we'll need some time to review the brand, and we will talk to the people leading it just to make sure their sustainability practices are in order. Sometimes we would request a sample just for a quality check. And then the onboarding itself, kind of the digital onboarding, is very streamlined. So
Automated.
automated.
Yes.
I guess for us, just the one bit which is not automated, and probably it hardly would ever be, is really the quality assessment of the brands. And this is something that we place big importance on and wouldn't compromise on.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I think that's everything. That's all of my questions that I had. So thank you so much for sharing all of your behind the scenes of what it looks like at Kool and Conscious, your tips. I hope that, people will take a lot away from today's episode. So
Yeah, Liz, thank you so much. It was great being with you.